Hello folks, welcome to tonight's vlog. Middle of December, mid Wales, raining heavily, and tot of rum and a heated throat. So the first couple of things were the last couple of things were hey. So I'm warm, I've got me rum, I've had some decent scram. Anyway, being in Wales, and I've walked through some evidence of some slate mining today. I thought I'd tell you the story of my grandfather. Now, he was from southwest Wales, the Aman Valley. Now, he would have been born around about 1900, 1901, something like that. I just wanted to sort of tell you about his sort of working life, really, and his the sort of plight of the working person back in the day. You see a lot of colourised videos, a lot of colourised photos, and they all look like Mary Poppins with the little umbrellas and all the rest of it, hansom cabs and all the rest of it. People say, oh, the good old days. But I tell you, for the working class, there was nothing good about them. It was bloody tough. And a lot of it, really, for all intents and purposes, was slavery. If you had no work, you either went hungry, or if you were lucky, you get into the workhouse. There's workhouses in Bristol. There's a notorious one up in fish ponds, and literally when people just died, they just croaked, they would use them for medical experimentation and bury them in the grounds of the workhouse. And indeed, the expression piss poor, you haven't got a pot to piss in. Families used to sell piss. It was used in the tanning process, I believe. And when you were so poor, you never even had a pot in which to piss in order to sell that piss. Anyway, back to my grandfather. Now, he was born around, say, 1900, 1901. Over in Wales, it was all about mining for coal. He started down. Well, he's actually quite a clever kid. It's a big family. I don't know anything about his father, but his mother, I think even on the death certificate, she died about 50, 55. It pretty much said died of overwork. She had quite a lot of kids. Now you might say, oh, why did you have so many kids? Well, in those days, you had a lot of kids because there was no old people's homes or anything like that, or welfare states or benefits or anything like that. You had a load of kids in the hope that you would live a long time yourself, and enough of your kids would live long enough to look after you. Because a lot of people died young. I think life expectancy at around about 1900, 1901 was around about 54. Even in 1968, when I was born, it was only about 67, 68. Life expectancy of a man was about 67, 68. And that was absolutely true. Because quite often I'd be working with some old fella, foreman or something, old guy on the site, and he'd retire at 65 in those days. And then you'd normally you'd expect someone who retired at 65 to have about 3 years of retirement, and then it was game over. And indeed, quite often, you say, oh, you know, so-and-so retired a few years back, he's gone on. So indeed, life expectancy was considerably shorter back in those days. And say, around about his time, it's about 54, 55. So they had a lot of kids in the hope that enough kids would survive in order to look after you, should you actually live a very long time. Or longer than the anticipated life expectancy back in the day. So, yeah, he was quite a clever kid, though. But he had to give up on aspirations to go to grammar school. Like a two-tier system. If you passed your 11 plus exam, then you could go to grammar school, I believe. He had to look after the family. He had to put food on the table. So he went down the mines at the age of 13 to be a pit boy. Now, he was tiny. He was a tiny little bloke. I think he was about 5 foot tall. And I think if he ever weighed more than about 8.5, 9 stone, I'd be surprised. But God, he was tough. He was strong. I met him a few times. It's a shame because he was so very, very working man Welsh. I was scared of him as a little kid, but I'd love to have had a chance to have chatted to him now, because I could have learnt so much from him. But this information is mainly coming through my dad, who's nearly he's 89 now, going on 90 next October. Anyway, going back to his dad, my grandfather, down the mines, down the pits at the age of 13, as a pit boy. Progressed up to, I think I don't know much about the mining thing, but I think there's a collier and then there's a miner. The miner is the one actually at the coal scene, just hacking away at with a pickaxe, and then it gets transported and out on conveyor belts, etc. Anyway, back in his day, I think it was the NCB, National Coal Board, they wouldn't even provide pit head baths or showers for the blokes coming out from under the ground. So they do a monster shift under the ground, in terrible conditions, come out black with coal dust from head to toe, and then they had to go home and get in a tin bath in front of the fire. And I know that back in those days, I think it was well into the 1930s, before they had electricity. So it was all stuff that had been boiled up on the stove to give him a hot bath to clean him up when he got back from the pits, which is disgusting. And indeed, he did land himself in a bit of trouble because there was a protest, and it turned nasty, and he ended up in jail for riot. But he was just out there protesting to try with the other guys, the other working families, and all the rest of them, not just guys, it would have been the whole family out there, just to get the basic, well, you could say a human right of getting yourself clean instead of going back home covered head to toe in coal dust. Anyway, so eventually they did give them pit head baths, showers, so at least that was something. The only other perk I can think of, they did get cheap, or I don't think it was free, but cheap anthracite coal. And anthracite coal is the best coal you can ever imagine. It is super. If you ever make up a coal fire from anthracite, it is absolutely. Log fires and all the rest of it, like I've done outside tonight, load of crap compared with an anthracite fire. It is unbelievable. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, went through his career, started at 13, tiny little guy, probably working 6 days a week. His only enjoyment in as he got a bit older in later life was to go down the working man's club and have a fair few beers, to be honest. And it's the type of thing that still goes on, at least up to my generation, that the sort of working guy, the working class, would enjoy a few drinks of an evening or of a weekend. That was his only enjoyment in life. No holidays, no nothing. No holidays abroad, no none of that type of thing. In addition, there was no benefit system. So no local GPs, or there might have been a local doctor, I'm not too sure. But he, from his family, learnt a lot of herbal remedies. He knew all sorts of things. Somebody had a infected cut or something, he'd mix up a poultice. He'd say, this is why I really wanted to get to chat to the bloke, because this information hasn't been passed on to my dad. But I'd love to have known a lot of these remedies. If somebody had an infected wound or something, poultice, lots of herbal remedies. So if you got this, take this. If you got the fever, take this. And it was all intended to try and prevent you having to go to hospital, because hospital was miles away. You had to get there on a bus. It was miles away. It was all the way away in Swansea. So the only reason really you go down there is if you had a serious illness, or you had like a a broken bone or something like that. So yeah, it was a long way on the old bus there. So he had to be an expert on that as well. A really good family man. Um, tough, tough guy. I remember a few occasions I did meet him. I go down there. This would have been the 1970s, and he sort of said he was so very Welsh and working class, Welsh speaking people as well. Absolutely brilliant. And then he'd turn up, and when we get there, and he'd be giving me a half a pint of bitter that was all bright or something like that, all bright bitter, and I was only about 3. Bloody hell. Anyway, I wish I got to know him better, but circumstances didn't permit. Anyway, so yeah, his career progressed on, and there did come a point, I think, between the wars, First World War, Second World War, that there was a quite a depression. I might not be 100% accurate with the timeline here. And in order to get work and put food on the table, him and his mate walked out the front gate of their house in West Wales and decided to walk to London, because they always used to say that the streets of London are paved with gold. They decided in order to get work, they'd walk to London. I don't know what came of it, but that was what they did. They came out the front gate and walked towards London. So there we go. Anyway, as the story progresses with his life, it got up to sort of wartime, and his health was suffering at that time with a condition called pneumoconiosis, which is coal dust on the lung. Silicosis is like stone dust, maybe concrete dust on the lung. Silicosis, pneumoconiosis, and you start to. The environment was still really bad down the mines. Anyway, he actually said, "Please send me away in the Second World War. Please send me away to fight on the front line." Because he actually genuinely thought it'd be an easier life to go away and fight on the front line. Trench warfare was preferable to working down the mines. But they said no, mining is whatever they classed it as in those days, a key occupation. You've got to stay down the mines. And in fact, what they used to do, they used to line the blokes up, and they say, right, you're going in the army, you're going in the navy, you're going in the air force, and you're going down the mines. That's the way it was chosen, out in the street in the line. Anyway, so he had to stay down the mines, and ultimately he was, I believe, signed off as unable to continue work in 1948, and he then had to. Well, basically, with the pneumoconiosis, he had 1/3 lung capacity, 1/3, and he was bent over like as well, because of the coal seam. It wasn't just tap away with a toffee hammer. These guys were bent over double all day, their entire shift. They were bent over double, hacking away at the coal seam. Anyway, oh, that's another story I'll chuck in there. In any way he could, he would try and generate income. And in those days, you used to have a visiting circus. And in the visiting circus, they used to have, I think they called him a prize fighter. They used to say, right, anyone can stay in the ring, go 3 rounds with the prize fighter, get some cash or something. And he'd first one up. And he had the most incredible strength, apparently, low down strength. He didn't have much sort of strength, as in lifting stuff high up, because his strength was all built up through hacking away. And he'd just go into the ring, do a massive, great big gut uppercut into the prize fighter, and win in seconds. Bad decision to bring um, a circus with a prize fighter to a working town in Wales. So he'd earn a few quid that way when the circus came to town. But anyway, so he was signed off. He couldn't work down the mines anymore. But say there was no benefit system, whatever. So he ended up working, even though he only had 1/3 lung capacity. He was working outside doing telephone poles, telegraph poles, putting them in the ground. So that's what he did until he got so bad he couldn't work anymore. Um, he did get, I think, an NCB payment in the 70s of 750 quid, which is not a massive amount of money, even if you convert it to today's money. But yeah, what a life, eh? Yeah, and unbelievably, he stayed loyal to the family. He always kept a fantastic garden with home produce in there. He'd be making up the fire first thing in the morning, building it up at night to keep the place warm at night. And yeah, he unbelievably made it through to, I believe, 85 years old. And he'd gone from about 47, 48 years old to 85 years old with 1/3 lung capacity due to pneumoconiosis. So, yeah, I just wanted to sort of commit that story to the internet, to YouTube, to sort of cast it in history. That some of these stories are untold, and I'm probably the last generation now that had direct communication with him, but the information has come through my dad. So once I'm gone on, this type of plight, this type of story may become lost. I think it's worth putting these things out there. So we shouldn't forget that when you look back at these films and videos, not everything was fantastic back in the day. And I say certainly the working class were treated very badly indeed. Um, the labour movement back in the day and the union movement was a beneficial one. But unfortunately, I don't believe those movements now really are out for that. There's not many of those type of people around anymore. The sort of working type guys. There's still people that like scaffolders and people that dig the roads and all the rest of it. But certainly the working class has shrunk compared with what it was. But I still think you could class me as working class, I guess. Um, I've never felt very well looked after by any governments that I've lived through, and certainly the union movement sort of went a bit off the rails somewhat in the late 60s, 70s. But certainly back in his day, it was a thing that was needed. It needed the working class needed a voice, and certainly now we've got to this day and age. I still think, well, now there's nothing to represent the working people of this country really. Um, you get sound bites and things from various political outfits, you know. Um, British jobs for British workers. Crap, just drivel. I still think they got a hard time, and they get ridiculed if they don't vote in the way that certain people want them to vote. They get ridiculed because they so-called are stupid because they haven't got a degree. Well, certainly a lot of degrees aren't worth the paper they're printed on. So I still think they get a raw deal. But I just want to look back to the life of the guy's name. Grandfather's name was Elwyn. So spare a thought for Elwyn. Good old bloke, hard-working bloke, entire life. So R.I.P. Elwyn. Anyway, I shall finish that the final sip of my rum and wish you all the best. Cheers, everyone.